G'day there guys, today we ask the question, am I the asshole for not housing my brother's mistress? In this story, there is my brother, 51 male, his mistress, 47 female, and my niece, 1 year old. For some backstory, my brother had an affair on his wife. They have 5 kids. After quitting his job, they moved in with his in-laws. My brother's mistress got pregnant, and she decided to quit her job. She was evicted from her previous rental, leaving my niece homeless. My brother's wife decided to try and work things out, and I ended up having a lot of family pressure to allow my brother's mistress and niece to move into my rental, to try and create a stable environment for my niece. Eventually, I agreed to allow them to move in with a couple of conditions. 1. Pay $500 each month, most of it goes to the cost of the utilities. 2. No dogs. The mistress quickly agreed, since the rent is extremely cheap, and let us know she will be starting her new job soon. The first month I received half the rent. The last 5 months, nothing at all. It's become a burden for me to keep them here. I am working additional hours to cover the expenses. My brother's mistress never went to work. I have tried and tried to talk to them, trying to work things out. It's going nowhere. I gave his mistress a 30-day notice to move, and during that time, I found out she's pregnant with baby number 2. My brother's wife kicked him out, and he moved into my rental with his mistress. They didn't leave after the 30 days. They ignored my attempts to talk to them, so I served a 5-day notice, still no reply. So I went to court and filed for an eviction. Since they were served, my phone has not stopped. Just about every family member has called me upset. My dad told me to finish it. He feels like my brother needs to man up and take care of his kids, both from his wife and mistress. My dad told me to put my kids first. My mum, however, is livid. She told me that I would be responsible if my niece and the new baby will be taken away from CPS. She said my kids are old enough to understand mummy working extra hours in the name of supporting family. She feels like I should continue working overtime and paying for their expenses until the new baby arrives in 7 months. Am I the asshole for kicking my brother's pregnant mistress to the curb? Now in the comments, not the asshole. Tell your mummy she is right, and as her child, you totally understand that she's now going to work the extra hours to pay you their rent. Not the asshole. Your mum is happy with putting strain on you, which might make you too ill to look after your kids. I'm with your dad. Not the asshole. It is one thing if paid late, but not paying for 5 months? Nope. You were completely justified in your decision. You gave them ample opportunity to rectify the situation, and anything that happens is their fault now. Entitlement is not pretty when the entitled one's world comes crashing down. So, wait, they both quit their jobs and live with you without paying you or talking to you? And his wife and 5 kids live with your parents. What the hell is happening? OP replies, his wife moved in with her parents. She became a stay-at-home mum when their daughter started having back-to-back seizures. The child needed constant care. However, with their parents' support, the wife is now working full-time at the front desk of a hotel. She is wanting to go to school in January to do respite care for sick children. They moved in with her parents when my brother decided he didn't want to work anymore. He has gone through jobs most of his life, but always found a different one. Until this all began with his mistress. Yuck. The only respectable adult in that is the wife. Kick your brother and his woman out. They are lazy assholes. What a mess he has made for all his kids. You tried and only had 2 rules. Pay rent and no dogs. She broke the first one in less than a month by not paying all of it in the first month, and then spent over 5 months with no rent or jobs. Both should have had a job already. Also, utilities must have skyrocketed with 3 extra people. Brother is 51. What is he doing having kids at that age anyway? And I assume no savings either. I would say she broke the other rule too, because the brother sounds like a dog. OP says, I didn't want to bring up the dogs that much since I felt like the main subject was lack of rent, but they ended up getting a puppy 2 months ago. I found out about it after a post I saw on Facebook. I asked them to remove it from the property since I'm allergic, which is why I said no dogs. His mistress told me it's her emotional support animal. Keep in mind, I have received no written notices or paperwork for the dog showing that, just her response for not getting rid of the dog. I'm sure if the dog peed, lost hair, or so on in the house, those rooms will have to be deep cleaned and the carpet and padding will have to be replaced, and aircon vents cleaned too. It's not a small allergy. I get shots on a weekly basis to help with it, but I still have to be careful. And now to an update. To answer a couple of questions, yes, she is pregnant. I was there at the ER when the doctor told her. I also found out she wasn't using any birth control. As of right now, the court date is Monday morning. I should find out there if the judge will allow additional time for them to stay. In most cases, it's 72 hours, unless I drop it or allow more time. Last, my husband and I have talked about taking the babies into our home. Just them. It's a major change for our kids. We feel like it's something we need more time to decide. Update 2. My mum showed up to my house tonight. It's quite the drive. She has been crying. I invited her in to have dinner with me and my kids after my kids left with my husband to go trick-or-treating. She tried again to allow my brother to stay. She said with their health, they couldn't allow them to stay in their home. I told her that I feel like I am enabling my brother to not take responsibility for all of his children. I told her I am tired of working non-stop for someone who is more than capable of working. She left sad. I will see my brother for the first time since he was served tomorrow at court. It'll be interesting for sure. I'm a little heartbroken, but it needs to happen. My hope is the judge doesn't extend the time that they have in my rental. I feel like it just makes things harder. And another update. Okay, so I went to go to court today. My brother and his mistress didn't show up. The judge did a good job, and she ruled in my favor. My brother has to be out by Saturday. If he is not, the constable can remove him and his mistress on Monday morning once the courts open up. Everything was going good until my husband asked the judge if we are responsible to notify my brother of the ruling since he was not there. The judge said we could pay for the constable to deliver a copy of the ruling today. I gave the constable all of the info, including when both my brother and mistress would be home. After I left the courts, I got a call from my parents, both on the line. I told my mum the constable will deliver the court's ruling to my brother to give them the maximum time to prepare to move. My mum was dead silent. My dad burst into laughter. I was then informed the reason my brother and his mistress didn't come to court was they had outstanding warrants that I knew nothing about, so there is a good chance they will be arrested today. I can't enter the rental until next Monday. I will update then if I am present when they go to remove my brother and his mistress. I was told today that if they are not gone, they will have 15 minutes to gather whatever they want before they are removed by the police. Wait, they had warrants? Yes, they do. I had no idea how they got in trouble. My mum knew and kept it from me. My dad, on the other hand, thinks this is deserved after all he has put his wife and kids through. I am not allowed to enter my rental until Monday. I don't know if my brother will be out of jail by then, and I feel kinda bad for feeling this way, but I hope I don't see him. I don't want any more drama. His wife asked if she could move into the rental since it's on the same street as my parents and her parents, and I told her to let me think about it. She is an amazing person. I just don't know if I want to rent to family anymore. It has been a complete nightmare. If you do rent to her, please make sure you have a solid renter's contract and perhaps even look into a month-to-month lease instead of an annual. That way, if you decide to give her notice, she has the month to find a new place without complaint because your lease is literally month-to-month at will. And OP gives us another update and says, here is the update for this week. The constable and we showed up to the property. He told them they had 15 minutes to grab whatever and leave. My brother went off. I sat in the car. My brother started threatening me. I have never seen him act so horrible. I just sat in the car, not replying. Then he just started smoking, not packing anything. His mistress was screaming from the house, saying, "You told me I would never have to move. You told me your sister wouldn't evict me." My brother slammed the door in the constable's face and locked it and refused to leave. At that time, additional police were called out. My brother's response was yelling that he was going to knock me out. He has a gun and will use it on me. Again, he has never treated me this way. So the police asked me to leave and go get lunch in hopes they could calm him down. Nope, it didn't work. They had to knock the front door in. They gave his mistress 35 minutes to pack things. She didn't. She just sat in their car mad. We changed the locks and cleaned the place up. And then on Tuesday, I got a call from the constable saying they needed an inhaler. I am not required to give them medicine. I am required to give them their identification. However, I drove 4 hours back. I loaded all medicines in a box, I put all the important papers and photos in another box, and I told the constable I was ready. They showed up quickly. They handed them the boxes, and they had another meltdown, calling me more names and threats, because they wanted to go into the house. I was told that they had set up secret cameras, and that they were watching me, and know that I touched their stuff. The constable told them that it was illegal for them to secretly record on private property, and they could go to jail for 2 to 10 years. And then my brother started walking towards the constable in an aggressive manner, so I called the police. My brother told them to arrest me. The police told him that I wasn't the one going to jail. His mistress took the boxes and left while yelling. I know I have to see them again, but I'm thinking about filing a restraining order against them. The police recommend I do that. Unexposed is titled, Am I the Asshole for Snapping at My Girlfriend When I Broke My Ribs? I had been hit by a motorcycle last weekend, and I broke a few ribs. My girlfriend was there, and I snapped at her and told her to effing shut up while the EMS was on its way. She was talking about random stuff, and I was in so much pain. She's been all cold with me since then, and while I get that what I said could have made her feel bad, I don't feel apologetic since I was in so much pain. Am I the asshole? It hurts more knowing she's upset with me, but I just can't feel sorry about it given the circumstances. Now in the comments, something that I think often gets forgotten on this sub is that sometimes being an asshole is understandable in the moment, but it doesn't make you less of an asshole. In this case, telling your partner to effing shut up out of frustration is an asshole move. No one should ever talk to their partner like that. However, given the circumstances and the pain, it's understandable in the moment. When we are hurting, we are all kind of assholes. But once the pain subsides though, if you can't admit that talking to your partner that way was wrong and apologize for lashing out at her, as she didn't cause your pain, then it's not even a soft you're the asshole anymore. If you genuinely don't think it's wrong to ever say effing shut up out of frustration to your partner, then it's a much bigger and much less understandable you're the asshole. This. I don't think you were the asshole for saying that in a moment of excruciating pain, but what I don't get is why you can't say, sorry, I said something terrible. In that moment, I thought I was going to black out from unbearable pain and I lashed out at you. I'm sorry. This apology costs you nothing, not even pride. Life is going to give you lots of chances to be the bigger person to make amends. I'm gonna go with you're the asshole here. I understand being in pain and not really wanting to talk, but is it possible she was just trying to keep your mind off the pain and distract you until the paramedics arrived? Mostly you're the asshole because you clearly hurt her feelings and have zero remorse for it. How hard is it to say, I'm sorry for snapping, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings, I just didn't find the talking helpful in that moment, and I was in a lot of pain and I wasn't dealing with it very well. Thought the exact same thing about her just wanting to distract him. I mean, it's not exactly a common or awesome situation for her either, so she was probably not sure what to do. You're the asshole. And now, on to the update. So, just an update to my post. I had been thinking that I was right because my actions could have been justified by the pain I was feeling, but reading your responses, I came to realize that I wasn't thinking about it from her perspective. I was in the hospital for a few days, but I explained to her that I felt like she was being distant about what I did, and that I was sorry, as she was just trying to be helpful. She was understanding, and we are cool now. She even wakes up early to help me get to class as I can't wear my backpack. One other thing I wanted to clarify, someone mentioned that I was drunk driving, and this is not true. She and I were crossing a street while I was drunk, and a biker ran a red and hit me. I was not operating any vehicle. Now in the comments, Receiving and actually processing criticism is incredibly hard, but the hallmark of a well-adjusted adult. Good for you. OP replies, "Bro, I'm 20. Bro, you're an adult." OP replies, "I mean, legally, sure, but I was raised in a super strict family where I was never allowed to do anything, like go out or drive, until I was on my own in freshman year in college, so I think the term adult is subjective." So, what are you then? A kid? A teen? You are adult enough to go out, drink, go to uni, and presumably have sex, plus many other things, but you have issues with being called an adult. I find it a bit concerning that you seem to take no proper accountability for your own life. Our next post is titled, "Am I the asshole for wanting a painting made by my late sister in my house, even though it triggers my husband, who is her widower?" What in God's name is that title? I, 34 female, had one sibling, 25 female when she passed, who died in a car crash just 3 months after her wedding. It has now been 12 years since her passing. We were very close and more like best friends than sisters. My now husband, Adam, was a constant presence in my family's lives, even after her death, as he would visit my parents regularly, and they dote on him very much. 5 years ago, we started getting close, and we got married 2 years later. My sister used paint as a hobby, and had left behind 8 paintings. My parents took 2 for themselves, I took 3, and my parents gave away the rest to her close friends. They offered Adam to take any he wanted, but he refused. I really liked the 3 paintings and displayed them in my apartment proudly before getting together with Adam, as I felt closer to my sister. But once we became a thing, the paintings seemed to upset him, so I kept them in storage instead. I understand everyone grieves differently, and for Adam, anything associated with her triggers him, and he goes back to that awful day when he found out she was gone. We have no pictures of her at our house or any memento left by her. All this time, I've been understanding, but I feel like I have completely erased her from my life, and I brought up the subject of displaying one painting to commemorate her in our house the other day. Adam shut the idea down immediately and refused to even hear my side. I was hurt by this, as I have been considerate of him all these years, but he didn't even think to consider my feelings about the situation. It worsened when I suggested grief counseling together today, which made him even more upset. He wasn't yelling but was clearly distraught by me continuing the subject. He said he already went through grief counseling, and my insistence is just opening old wounds. I was angry at the time and asked him why did he even consider marrying me when the thought of her makes him this upset and knowing how much she meant to me. He told me he can't handle me or this conversation anymore and went to his brother's to cool off, as he doesn't want to say anything he'll regret later. Now, all alone, I'm thinking that I might have taken this too far. Am I the asshole here? Now in the comments, everyone sucks here. You married your late sister's husband? That's just wrong. Did he marry you because you look like your sister? Because clearly he wasn't ready to be in another relationship if he hasn't healed from that one. If I died and my husband married my sister, I would haunt the crap out of both of them. OP says, "My sister and I look nothing alike. She looked more like my aunt on my dad's side, and I have predominantly my mum's features. We connected 6 years after her death, and Adam had a few other relationships by that time, but we have always been a part of each other's lives, first as friends, and then it became something more. No assholes here. Both of you are grieving, but man, this situation is just messy to say the least." OP replies, "We've definitely been through a lot, I agree, but we have a great relationship in most ways. He has always been my rock and the support that I needed, and we rarely fight. But this has always been a sore subject for him, and he becomes so closed off, even at the mention of her. That's why I suggested grief counseling, but he just won't listen to anything I say on the subject. You're the asshole simply because you're an idiot. Why on earth would you marry your late sister's husband? Look, I'm just saying if I died and my sister married my husband, no matter after how long, I would be turning over in my grave. Best believe that I'd haunt the ever-living crap out of you. It just feels so wrong, like second prize. Do you feel like a second prize, OP? No assholes here. I can understand why it triggers him. He was married to her, and he did lose her too, which is definitely something you need to be considerate of, as this seems like a really messy situation. That you married your sister's widower, and it sounds like he still needs to grieve for her. OP replied, he has spoken about it before, how he gets images of her lifeless body on the OR table at the mention of her. It was very traumatic for him, as he was the only one to see her in that state. My parents and I only saw her in the casket a few days later. So, grief may not be the right way of framing it then. While grief and trauma go hand in hand, they are separate. Not to offer a diagnosis, but as someone who has PTSD, that sounds like a trauma response/flashback situation. Grief counseling may have helped him process her not being here anymore, but may have been insufficient for the trauma of seeing a loved one in that state. I hope this makes sense and is not condescending. I'm going no assholes here. And now onto the update. I want to brush aside the fact that most people deemed me the asshole for marrying Adam. We are both adults, and no one should ever be shamed for loving someone, but I know I was asking for it, just knowing how red it is. That being said, I do feel I'm the asshole in this situation, and that is why I'm here. Adam came home that night, and that's why I wasn't able to reply to most of you later. Some of you had contacted me through chat and a PM to discuss it, but I really didn't have any energy to reply, so I'm sorry if I ignored you. Apparently I was only thinking of myself when I suggested bringing out the paintings from storage to Adam. When he cooled down and came back home, he explained his side of the story. It was really hard for him to come to terms with my sister's death, so he decided to start fresh by getting a new house, selling all of the old furniture, and starting over. The paintings were a part of their old furniture. This is something I forgot to mention because, as I said, I wasn't really considering his feelings. Now, many years later, when we both have begun our new life together, he didn't want a piece of his past reminding him of her daily. He said my words really hurt him, as we both have been through so much together, and me questioning all of it during our argument really messed him up. I can't go more into details of what we discussed because it wouldn't be fair to Adam, but long story short, I apologized profusely for bringing up his past trauma, and he also apologized for the way that he handled things. We both agreed that we are in dire need of counseling, so we are currently looking for one in our area. I also showed him the OP. He didn't care for most of the comments, but one intrigued him. Someone suggested buying something new that reminded me of my sister, like an animal she liked, and he said he could deal with that. My sister liked to incorporate moons and stars into her paintings, but never wore any jewelry with them, so I thought of buying a moon pendant or earrings and wearing them from time to time, and he agreed that would be best. The paintings, I'm afraid, will be in storage indefinitely until Adam feels comfortable with them being in our house. If he is never okay with it, I'm fine with that, but I'm glad we were able to come to a resolution and have started our process to heal. Thank you to everyone for making me see how wrong I was, and I was being a major asshole. Alright, and that's where I'm going to end the story for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. This was a lot to get through in today's episode. My voice really hurts, but it's worth it in the end because I think that is a dumpster fire still going on there. I question these people's motives for getting married to each other, but at the end of the day, love is love. I may not understand it, but these two people do. Hope you guys have a good one, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.